the county.
Oh crap. I don't think I'm in the meeting.
Hi, you haven't joined the meeting?
I don't think Mike had it open.
I opened it early unless it
I
did not. When I closed my tablet, it come down.
All right,
Tell
confirm
me if you
live.
can't get in, I can restart it.
I joined before you came in, I'm sure.
I started it upstairs, so depending on when you got down here.
It's not letting me do it. Try. There we go. I'm in, I think.
I was watching my little clock earlier.
Oh, yeah, that's all. That's it. Then-
Yeah, we're gonna have to get that synced.
That's off, or that's off.
Yeah, that's what it's, this is fine.
I'm thinking that's a little 30 seconds or so.
Get your remote out.
out.
6 o'clock, the meeting of the city school board will now come to order. Mike, you want to call roll?
Jason Schaffner,
Here.
Linda Meyer,
Here.
Robert Smith,
Here,
Michelle Lott,
Here.
and Mandy Croft is excused.
Join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Greetings, all visitors. We have no public participation, I'm assuming.
Correct.
All right. Any changes, deletions to the agenda? Other than that, we have no
From
legislation.
one time, there's one item that was added this afternoon by me, and it was the Power School invoice, which is item F. I have to, sorry, I have to log back in. My device is not cooperating. Just to make sure, are you all still connected okay? Can you tell?
find out what's good vote.
I guess you were.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm good, thank you, sorry.
Number 7A, Bob said he didn't have one of those, so take that off. And
And I don't have it.
Michelle doesn't have no 8A either, so we can delete both
So
of
we
those.
will remove 7A legislative report and 8UBCC report from the agenda.
And that 7A is just because the legislature's at summer recess.
Good?
Mhm.
There's no public participation. So Bartek, you are up.
Awesome.
Go forward here for a second.
And can you refresh it? Please. Thank you. Oh, sure. Well, hold on. I didn't like that. There we go. Yep. Now Oh, I can see up here. Do you want me to tilt the screen a little bit? Okay, wonderful.
Like walking in. Sorry. Get my big head out of there.
Good.
Everybody's on, yes, see it.
Can you guys still see it okay?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll speak to it, so hopefully it makes enough sense. Sure, there we go. Okay, so we are Vartech Services. We are the district's technology strategic partner. I'm gonna do a couple introductions here, because we have a few team members here. But myself, I am Jamie Martin. I'm Vartech's Director of Customer Experience. I was a part of the team that worked together with the board and the administration to put together our partnership solution, and since then have managed at a strategic level or leadership level, our partnership, working directly with our team and making sure that everything that we have planned is being executed. And so it is my privilege to introduce to you our new EdTech leader, Trent Francis. His first official day is today. He got signed up for a board meeting introduction, but Trent's been with Vartech for over a year and a half in a project management function. And before that, he has spent time at a network operations center, so in IT, but he's been around Vartech now for a while, and directly and indirectly connected to Sidney over the last year especially. He served here for a couple of months last year during school startup when everything was very new and we were working through a lot of things, so he supported the team in that function. And he's been with me for the past couple of weeks as I've been here filling in, and so he's gotten up to speed very quickly on Sidney, so I'm very excited for him. Also, prior to Trent joining, Carrie Kaiser joined as our second classroom technology coach. She is probably not an unfamiliar face to a lot of you, which is what we're really excited about in addition to what experience she brings, but very excited to have someone who is highly invested in the district as a parent, as a member of the community, and someone who brings 20 years of teaching experience to this role. And Carrie's going to focus on 7 through 12. And really help us carry out the blended learning plan and the professional learning syllabus. So just thank you for being here, allowing us to be here. We'd love to be able to come and present so that you can see what we're doing together, and that we have that accountability, that we follow up on what we said we were going to do last November. And as we put these plans together, that we can give you a progress update. So we're going to talk about 2 plans in particular today. One of them is the blended learning plan that we presented last November. The other is a technology optimization plan that we spoke to in November, but put out in February. So major contributors to these 2 plans on the education side, our Director of Technology Integration at Vartech worked very closely with Brooke and her team and our coaches to determine what the goals were and our objectives of the blended learning plan and what years 1 through 5 would look like. And so that's on the education side. On the engineering resource center or the technological side for the technology optimization plan, Chris Turner is our director of the engineering resource center. And so he manages the team that's sitting in Dayton and Cincinnati and kind of throughout our company that are remotely supporting the technology optimization initiatives, in addition to a name you probably recognize as Dominic Bruno, who is our on-site network administrator. So together, I mean, these are just a few of the members of the team. They are on-site and remotely supporting the technological initiatives that we're gonna talk about today. The team ultimately day-to-day supports this as well, but as a contributors to the overarching plan, this is what your team looks like. There we go. You've seen this slide probably before, but this is so true to what we do. We don't believe technology exists for the sake of itself. We want to make sure that what technology does in the classroom is driven by what the instructional goals are. And so that's what we're leading with the blended learning plan as we go over those. As your partner, what we're putting together for you is an overarching IT strategic plan. These 2 pieces will roll up to that, and we'll be back to present what that holistic plan looks like in its full capacity. And it looks over 5 areas. And that's defining a vision and strategy. What are the technology integration goals? We're going to cover that in the blended learning plan. What does the optimal technology environment look like to achieve the vision and strategy and those technology integration goals? What's the appropriate budgeting structure for that? We do this right now through our asset refresh plan. That's a multi-year plan, and we look at every year based on what our inventory tells us. And then what's the appropriate staffing model to execute on the vision for teaching and learning and the use of technology? we're actively working on all of this every day. Anyways, we're working on putting it, like I said, into a holistic plan that encompasses everything that we've put together so far. And what that'll look like in deliverables and executables and tangible things is annually, we're gonna put out, and this will be year 2, or we had a half year professional learning syllabus last year, but a full year this year, that's gonna look month by month at what our technology integration topics are going to look like, how teachers are going to be able to access that professional development, what the follow-up looks like, how we're going to measure it, and that comes out in the annual professional learning syllabus. That is a component of the multi-year blended learning plan that we presented last November. We also have the technology optimization plan. How do we make sure that we can do all the things that we want to do in the blended learning plan? And then ultimately rolls up to the IT strategic plan. I would give you all the acronyms, but there's way too many of them, so pardon my mouthfuls. But that's what our strategic plan is going to look like, and that's what we're about to prepare for you here in the next month or 2. So the components of the overarching IT strategic plan that we're going to talk about tonight are the blended learning plan. We're going to talk about what we said we were going to do in year 1, what we accomplished, what we learned because we had to make some adjustments, and what we're going to be working on in year 2. We had identified objectives around infrastructure and equipment, and then we'll talk about what the professional learning goals were. But for year 1, the infrastructure goals were to select a learning management system and begin execution on a technology optimization plan and learning management system. This is actually an accelerated goal. We were planning on doing that in year 2, and we've already begun those or completed the Schoology choice or selection, and we're about 75% through the technology optimization plan. For equipment, in year 1, we wanted to have interactive panels in 25% of the classrooms and one-to-one devices in 9 to 12. As you know, we have one-to-one devices in 9 to 12, and we are 100% with the exception of the incoming few that are coming to the high school with these interactive panels. So accelerated goal on that one. Year 2 for interactive panels was like 50%, and then year 3 was 100%, so that goal has been knocked out. One-to-one devices for this year, we're looking at targeting grades 5 through 8. We put this as in progress, even though we've already made the plans to distribute these devices, 7, 8 for take home and 5, 6 assigned to the students in carts. We have the number of devices. We're in the process of assigning those to students. So we didn't want to check it off yet until those actually get into their hands. We're pretty excited. What we're going to test out at the middle school is having the device ready for the student when they come to homeroom. So that's the plan for the middle school. We're going to test that with 7 and 8 and see how it goes, and then plan, hopefully mid-year, to roll it out to the younger kiddos, the 5th and the 6th grade at the middle school. Any questions on infrastructure or equipment, year 1?
Year 2?
Year 2, go ahead.
The one-to-one devices in 5 to 8. When you say carts, does that mean that 5th grade Bob Smith has a dedicated one, but he just doesn't take it home? Does it mean there's a group for the classroom or a group for the grade?
It means that it is assigned to Bob Smith and you pick it up at the beginning of the day and you make sure it goes back in the cart at the end of the day. So that way, if Bob Smith takes it around the school and something breaks, we know whose device it was, or we know where it should be when it's not in the cart.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other questions?
Jamie,
Yes, ma'am.
would you speak to the one-to-one environment in grades pre-K through 4?
Mm-hmm. So technically, and one-to-one really depends on how you define it from the onset, because it could be just we have enough devices that if we needed to send home a device with a kid, we could. Or it means that they are assigned to Bob Smith and it should be in space 1 and cart 3 in this classroom. That is the latter is what we're doing 5 through 12 that we'll have accomplished this year. In pre-K through 4, we have, well, let's say 1 through 4, we have Chromebook carts, 1 cart per classroom, and enough devices for students in those grades. Pre-K, we have, I believe right now we're sitting at a cart per 2 classrooms of iPads, and we're getting ready to refresh those and increase our inventory on those. So what we have is kind of a smattering of mostly older iPads, which we know are essentially very little functionality to them for the classroom. So we just put through an order of iPads there. That'll get us to, if we can salvage some that are older, could get us to a one-to-one environment in pre-K as well with iPads. Any other questions? Does that satisfy the answer? All right, so we're gonna go into the actual instructional professional development focus area. There we go. So you may remember this PDF that we had, or this graphic that we had. Phase 1 was really to, again, talk about the LMS, choose the LMS, and get towards a mastery of its use by the staff. Sharing the future goals for blended learning with stakeholders. We have done that. Phase 2, this is where we are this year, and this is gonna look a little different than what we presented last November. Last November, we talked about starting to work towards designing with the end in mind. When we met this summer, we realized here's what we learned in year 1, here's what we focused on, and here's where we succeeded, and here's where we need to adjust for year 2. So knowing that OTES 2.0 is driving a lot of what we're doing for instruction, we wanted to make sure that integration aligned with that. And so the focus for year 2 is now going to be using data by grade band and taking the different platforms that we have available for teachers to use and to interpret data and use that in their instruction and make sure that we can support them in those different platforms. So creating an environment that's focused on data for instruction. So a couple things that you'll see in the professional learning syllabus when we publish that, we're gonna look at Schoology data, how to use that so that they can use the LMS to pull in that kind of information in these platforms that we have. Performance matters in the high school, as we know. We're getting deep into that already. So Carrie's very
Crash course.
yes, very much a crash course with performance matters, which is a really exciting thing for the high school and very big initiative, we know. And the adjustment to year 2 just meant that we shifted a little bit of the timeline on the focus for backward design and different things like that, how we want to roll that out in 3, 4, 5. And we'll again look at it mid-year and then at the end of the year and see what changed or what did we learn or what could we accelerate, what do we need to slow down, and how does that inform the rest of the plan?
Those bands, you said they were being driven by some of the outside factors. The K through 2 data literacy, I'm assuming that's being driven by like the 3rd grade reading proficiency. Is that a correct assumption?
It contributes to that.
Okay.
It really just focuses on what data are we collecting, how are we collecting, what intervals are we using to collect it, and trying to, again, utilize technology in ways that support teachers in all of those different facets of that.
And I'm probably jumping ahead, but we're training our staff on how to analyze that data, what it really means.
That's a part of an overarching focus this year for the district with OTES 2.0, which is the new evaluation framework. And it focuses a lot on high quality student data. So we're working together with ESC, our curriculum team, to roll out different modules for that and learning.
Thank you.
Welcome.
And so again, we moved we shifted the timing of phases 4 and 5 and what those goals are going to look like. And we have 50% of teachers using or implementing blended learning into their instruction, 75% of them continue towards backwards design. And by shifting that, it gives us a little bit more, it gives us a structure to focus on data in year 2, and it gives us flexibility if we need it to continue that focus further into the following phases. And then just kind of a reminder what we were talking about for goals on infrastructure, equipment, 1-to-1 was targeted in the original plan for year 3, no later than year 5. I anticipate that we're going to surpass that goal with what we have planned. And then a blended learning environment is our ultimate goal to support the instructional focus by year 5. Any questions on the educational side? Okay. Technology optimization. So the plan of a technology optimization plan it can get very granular in terms of whether the risks that we identified and what the milestones that we identified are. So I'm just gonna hit the highlights in terms of what were the critical risks that we learned through discovery and our initial months here, and then what have we achieved so far to mitigate those risks. By no means done. And as any good technology optimization plan will be, you'll complete one and then you'll start looking towards what the next one is. How are we going to further optimize the environment? But at a high level, the risks that we identified, cybersecurity policy or protocols were undefined. And we'll talk a little bit more about that, but specifically we were looking at, there was a cybersecurity policy, insurance policy in place, which was great. 2-factor authentication hadn't been turned on yet. There was no focus on how to educate end users, which are, your most vulnerable level, if you will, or threshold. And then password policies were pretty weak in terms of changing them, the password strengths, those kinds of things. So that was one of the initial risks that we identified. The server environment was outdated and unsupported. So not only were we working with older servers in the data center, they were using an operating system that was no longer supported, and they were very unstable. We learned this very quickly last year when we were trying to get Schoology launched and different things like that. So we knew that as part of our asset refresh plan, new host servers were going to be critical this year. The wired and wireless networks were poorly configured. Wiring was end of life. I think one of the first things that Bob told us when we came in here is when he would have to leave, and he would leave the building and he'd have to log back in, or he would do different things. And we looked at some of the configurations where we're able to make easy tweaks, but then a big project that we'll talk about was the wiring for the elementaries. There was not an offsite or there's not an onsite really, or offsite or cloud backup solution in place and what we came into. So we'll talk a little bit about that next. I don't know why I'm clicking to the screen. It's not there. Implementation of our cybersecurity plan. We recommended and implemented TechGuard. So TechGuard is through InfoSec. It's a end user awareness education. It's a really easy to operate platform that allows someone to assess your population, send them some phishing emails, see what they click on, send it to them again, just see if they fall for it, if you will, and then be able to create a baseline and then teach to it. There's small trainings, video, they can be written training, and then you can just kind of hit that monthly, and there's a syllabus that they provide. So it's a pretty, I guess, low threshold way to get to educate and create awareness around cybersecurity. In another district, we have somebody had been around enough to have these trainings and emailed our ed tech leader there and said, I got an email about a guy who said that they had shoes in the ceiling tiles. And he goes, it feels very fishy to me. And I wanted to let you know, and I wanted to see if I should check it. Well, sure enough, it was a custodian who received the email, and a dad said his kid put shoes up in the ceiling and he was trying to get it. But again, awareness is key. And so we really appreciated having that email, as wacky as it sounds. Two-factor authentication was implemented in December of 2020, I believe, and we increased password security. We're constantly monitoring password security to make sure we have the best protocol there, and working with users as we have to change anything. This year, we purchased new servers. We are transitioning users away from the physical Q drive, which you may hear some of that, and we're getting them to Google Drive and OneDrive so that they have that in the cloud. But more so, the stabilization of the server environment was our critical objective there. We're in the process of also updating all of the firmware and all of the systems within the servers to make sure that everything is up to date. We created and implemented a backup system. We discovered shortly after we started really digging in that there was a Beam service, which is a backup service that was running, and we were able to initiate and get critical files backed up. And then what we did is we took Intronus, which is our backup solution, our cloud backup solution that we use, and started running that service there. As we complete the update of the entire server environment, this will get to backing up everything that we have offsite. And then as part of E-Rate this year, we got the cabling upgraded from the BOE to Whittier, Emerson, Longfellow, and Northwood this summer. Just wrapped up, officially tied some bows on it last week. Another component of this project, though, that we'll talk about is what's coming is the equipment that's needed to make sure that kind of opening up the, I'm gonna get my terms wrong here, but opening up the taking advantage of the upgraded cabling will really come to fruition when we have the new equipment in place, which due to supply chain challenges is delayed a little bit to the fall. Yeah, I'm sure you
I
will.
always have questions. So
Yeah, please.
on the first one, thank you for adding the headers to our emails to identify ones that come from outside the domain.
Yes, I remember talking about that, absolutely.
Yeah, so thank you for doing that.
Yes.
How frequently are we applying patches to those new servers? And what is the kind of cycling for keeping those patched?
Good question. I will get back to you on the exact frequency on that. I'm gonna check in with Chris because we're doing that from the Engineering Resource Center. So let me check with that and get back to you.
And the other one is, we upgraded the cabling, I can't remember, was that Cat 3, Cat 5,
Cat 6.
Cat 6? Okay. Or the old one we
Oh, the
replaced.
old one's Cat 5.
Okay.
It wasn't as old as Cat 3.
Okay. Is power a problem in those buildings? Because they were built in the 1950s, and I can't imagine with the draw of computer hardware, have we upgraded anything there to support that? I think I've asked this in the past, but
I know Emerson Longfellow and Northwood had panels that were upgraded because we added some cafeteria equipment.
Okay.
We had added freezer, exterior freezer. And in order to do that, we had to upgrade their electric panels then. So
Okay.
Whittier, I can't remember if they've had to have an updated service.
because as we transition into a more tech environment, I would hate to have buildings where teachers are trying to stagger, who turns on what when, so we don't blow circuits or that we don't do something even worse.
Well, the great thing is as we start to move into upgrading air conditioning in those buildings, we're gonna have to raise the power anyway.
Okay.
So that's gonna fix that problem. If, right now, it hasn't been one, but once we get to that point, that'll eliminate that potential.
I just know those are old buildings and power.
No, that's a good question, thank you. Another thing that's on here that is kind of just a small milestone in itself in the technology optimization plan is cleaning up data racks and cleaning out the data center. When old things are taken out, such as the old firewall that'll decommission soon, and the old content filter was an on-prem device. We've been pulling things out and making sure that cabling is clean and tidy and safe, not only aesthetically pleasing, but also reliable, and things aren't setting on each other and causing any issues that way. Some next steps, some what's to come of both of these plans. What we are going to do is release the updated version of the blended learning plan with the modifications that we had done to year 2. And as a part of that, the 21-22 professional learning syllabus. We're going to continue progressing the Firewall project. The Firewall migration project was almost every milestone within the technology optimization plan is also this project, because everything is so interconnected for us to be able to relocate the Firewall to WOCO, to have it hosted there and managed there. Complete the equipment upgrade for all the pre-K4 buildings. So what we're waiting on, we have the access points. We don't have the switches. And so we have the access points to replace a 1-for-1 access point refresh in those buildings. We don't have the switches yet, and that's what's on delay until November or December. Once that is in place, the experience is going to be just completely different in terms of wireless internet there for the students and the teachers. And then finalize and present the multi-year IT strategic plan. So there's another slide there. Again, high level update. Next time we come, I hope to be able to talk about the IT strategic plan as a whole. Not necessarily hammering on what we just talked about, but then really focusing on what does the budgeting section look like? What do we put in place so that we can ensure that the staff is the appropriate staff? We wouldn't be doing a service if we didn't look at each of those things every year in the context of a multi-year plan. Any questions? I'll make sure you guys have this as a PDF as well for after the fact. All right. And then see what I can do. Let me stop screen sharing myself.
Tap that little button down there.
This guy? Take myself out?
Yeah.
Yes. Then we go back to, what was it?
Chromium.
Look what I did, guys. Not even on the tech team. Look what I did. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Jim.
I would like to add one thing though. I'd like to thank Mr. Humble, because I think it went back as far as when we were interviewing you. One of the visions that you set forth at the beginning was the one-to-one technology for all of our students. And it looks like we're gonna have that come to fruition very, very quickly. So thank you for setting that, and then thank you, Bartek, for helping make it a reality.
Absolutely.
All I remember was a pie.
I know,
That's all I remember. I don't know what you said after that.
that was a good time.
It was. Yes, it was. Guess we all remember different things about the hiring process.
Bye. All right, Mike, you're up, treasury report.
All right, item A. Minutes, financial reports and invoices paid. Like to request a motion to approve the minutes, financial reports and invoices paid as presented.
The motion,
Also moved.
Linda, second.
Second,
Michelle?
This section is a little lighter than normal. I've noticed that my typical financial report is not in there. Couple reasons for that. One is the state budget was passed so late into the year that what that looked like and how that impacted our foundation formula wasn't immediately available. As they've been working on that, I went to a budget analysis and discussion workshop on August 4th as they worked through and talked about the different sections and what that looked like. I'm hoping that for August, September, the latest, you will see my typical report. Reason I haven't gone down that road yet is the changes that are in the budget and how they're gonna significantly impact what that looks like us on the revenue and the expenditure side. Because before, as you recall, things such as a scholarship, the community school, and the open enrollment, those three particularly, those were expenses that we reflected in purchase services. On the revenue side, we were funded for all the students that live in the district. We remember that's the piece that's changing. So the funding will now be for students that attend your school. So now they're not gonna have that transfer of funds where you get funded for all your students and then they transfer the monies out for those that are on scholarship, open enroll out, and community school. So they're funded where they sit, which for us is gonna show as if we're getting less state funding than what we have in the past. But then on the other side, we're not gonna have the expenses on the purchase services for those three items specifically. And so they haven't completely worked that through the funding formula yet. It takes time. It takes time for them to work out all those factors. And so the way it is supposed to look is that even though all these things are happening, our net number will not be any less than what we received in the prior year. So I want to make sure what those things end up looking like is accurate moving forward, because there's no sense in making this estimate of what I believe it's going to look like. And then all year we're trying to explain why my revenue is so much different or why the expenditure is so much different. I want to see what that final foundation formula looks like, and then we'll move forward. Because those are two significant pieces on either side of our budget. We're talking, in the $3 to $4 million range. So I just want it to be accurate. So that's why you're not seeing that piece in the report as of the end of July reporting.
So those bars will both be moving down, but the
Correct.
distance between them will remain consistent.
It should be the same. Okay. Correct.
And this is probably just my ignorance. Layman, Sidney Christian, those will still continue to be as they are today? Or is the funding for those also, is that?
Now you're talking about the auxiliary service piece?
No.
Or you're talking about the scholarship piece?
The part where money passes through the district for a layman student that resides within our district?
Right, and that's the one, is actually Layman, Holy Angels, and Sidney Christian.
Right.
And that's for those students that have, say, the John Peterson Scholarship or the Autism Scholarship. So that was the only piece that flowed through that went to them. Now that will be directly funded to them.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other discussion? If not, Mike, you want to call roll?
Meininger,
Yes.
Lot,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Schaffner.
Yep.
Motion carries. Item B is the Final Site web hosting. Motion to approve a 5-year contract with Final Site for the term August 1st, 2021 through June 30, 2026 for web hosting services at a cost of $13,440 per year, which would be a total of $67,200 and a one-time setup cost of $18,000.
Have a motion?
So moved.
Bob, I got a second.
I'll second.
Linda?
Can you explain that to me? I don't quite understand what that is.
Right now we use, it's kind of interesting too, we use a company called School Point that are, and if I can get these terms wrong, please tell me here, that our website resides on. So they manage it, help us to make changes and all of those types of things within our website.
They host our website.
Okay.
Tiffany found during COVID and some of the things we were doing, there were some deficiencies in what she wanted to do with it and the things that it could do. So her and you actually both kind of were exploring some options. There were kind of two. I don't remember what the other one was. Final Site, what was the one that you were interested in?
Give me a second.
Okay, but as it come down, Tiffany said this is the one she felt fit best for us.
Okay.
So that was the direction we're moving. Now, interesting enough, as we were moving through this whole process to contract with Final Site, we come to find out Final Site just bought School Point, who is our current provider. So at the time, currently, they're still maintaining two programs, if you will. School Point still exists, and then their Final Site product, at some point, I would imagine they will come close together, but they're gonna be all the same company.
Okay.
So this is new software that we're bringing into the district, well, bringing in, it's remote, right? And in the past, when we've had new software, frequently I'd become involved in that process where I would send questions to the vendor to make sure that things like security, backup recovery, if we later decide we wanted to leave, that we could take our data with us, that we can meet document requests, we can comply with those things. Because, you know, as a school district, if we don't have a document retention schedule for something, we have to keep it forever.
Right.
So it doesn't matter if we're hosting it or if we have someone else host it for us, we're responsible for that. So if we leave, we need to make sure that if something falls under that, we can keep it. Is that accurate?
That's correct, yes.
So in the past, I've been involved in that, but as a board member, I really shouldn't. And now that we have VARTech, I would like to have that responsibility kind of move over to VARTech. So Jamie and I talked a little bit before, and I think kind of where we settle is if we can have a form that's created that has different sections to it. You know, yes, someone's looked at the security model. I know you've already looked at the security model for this one, but you know, someone's looked at the security model, it's good. Backup recovery, it's good. And just go through all those different items and either say that it's good, or if there's some sort of an issue, we have an issue, but we can do this to mitigate the issue, kind of thing through it. Or this is an issue and it's a big red flag and we shouldn't use it. And it kind of goes through that process. So I would like to make that standard whenever we bring anything in. And I don't want to hold this up any longer than it needs to be held up, but I would like to amend my motion that it is contingent upon the creation of this form and the completion of that form by VARTech, just so they can go through, VARTech and city staff, but that they can go through and make sure that all the i's have been dotted and all the t's have been crossed.
So we don't have any type of retention form? I mean, I get that.
Yeah, it's not the retention piece that you're talking about.
We have document retention for things like that. But I'd like to make that motion, but it would have to be seconded before we can have a discussion on it.
Okay. So you're making a motion to amend.
The approval of this is contingent upon the completion of that form. Not the approval, that the acquisition of this software is contingent upon the completion of that form. Mike loves it when I offer amendments, emotions.
Okay. I haven't yet figured out how you can insert them into an active agenda.
But it's not an amendment if it's not seconded.
Right, so you motion.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Linda? Want to wait for you to get done writing first, Mike?
You know what I mean? Yep.
We'll get ahead again.
Well, I haven't recorded too, so.
Okay. Do it with the other hand, you write faster.
It's too late.
And so I think if we can create this document, or not we, if Vartex creates this document, it does a lot of nice things, right? Number one, it just shows that we did due diligence. Even if something happens, we did our due diligence to try to make sure that what we were bringing in was as sound as it could be. And also, it's kind of nice from the Vartex side because they work with so many different school districts that once they've done this for one district, they can reuse it for other districts. So I think there's some pros to that.
So I do have a question.
Yes.
Should, as we continue, so what does this look like then for Tiffany to even start doing anything with that? Because like,
The next step would be the completion of the form before we went through the acquisition process, if the amendment passes, right? We have a motion that's out there and we have an amendment. We have to vote on the amendment. If the amendment doesn't pass, then we go back to the base motion. But if the amendment passes, then that document would have to be completed.
So
before
is
Tiffany
that-
does
so
anything.
as soon as the document's completed, I guess I want to make sure I understand the line of events that can happen.
Yeah.
And when.
So the amendment was to not acquire the software until the completion of the document.
Okay.
But I believe the hard parts have already been reviewed, right? You've already gone over the security model. It would just be the other pieces, like can we take the data
So
when we leave?
this doesn't require waiting till the next board meeting for this to occur.
No, once that's completed, if it's completed tomorrow, then that can move on tomorrow.
Gotcha, okay.
That's what I'm not trying to hold it up.
That's why I said, that's why I wanted to make sure I was clear.
And then hopefully going forward, this becomes part of our standard process, right? That when we want to purchase new software, Vartec is brought in early in the process, that whole thing can be done, and then we get ready to vote on it. We just know.
Okay, so let's move on, let's,
Voting on the amendment.
amendment. Mike, you want to call roll?
Smith,
Yes.
Meininger,
Yes.
Lot,
Yes.
Schaffner.
Yep.
And motion carries.
The amendment carries,
The
yes.
amendment to the motion carries. Motion, yeah, the amendment carries. Okay. And now we're back to the original motion.
Yes.
You want to call
Any
roll?
other discussion on that? Okay. So, Smith,
Yes.
Meininger,
Yes.
Lot,
Yes.
Schaffner.
Yep.
And that motion carries.
That was the best compromise I could come up with quickly that didn't cause us to wait another month.
That works.
We're on it.
Thank you.
I would like to have that document by 5:00 tomorrow.
He's gonna be here on site tomorrow, so.
I'll lock my door and get it.
Welcome to the team, Carrie.
Yep.
That's on me, that's on Trent.
Item C is Branching Minds. I request a motion to approve the renewal of the Branching Minds platform license for 1 year at a cost of $21,366.
Do you have a motion?
So moved.
Michelle, second?
I'll second.
Linda? Any
Can
discussion?
we have an explanation?
We'll work with you tonight.
This is the platform that we use K-8 for our response to intervention plans. It has an academic component as well as a behavioral component that we look to start to implement and explore. So before it was, a lot of tracking with progress monitoring, what strategies are being used for our students in the different tiers 2 and 3 especially. And so this makes it possible for teachers who have that student and the next year's receiving teachers to see what's been done with that student. And so this follows the student across grade level.
And also provides resources.
It does, it provides
For those
strategies for
RTI strategies.
interventions
So
and
it
how
shows
to's.
What's been done.
Yes, it does. Mhm. Yes.
Just for me, it's an unfortunate name because I see branching lines, I go to mind mapping. Because it's
Oh,
got
yeah.
branches and it has
Yes.
mind in it, but
And this is paid for out of Title IV federal grant money.
Any other discussion? Mike, gonna call roll?
Lot,
Yes.
Meininger,
Yes.
Smith,
yes.
Schaffner.
Yep.
Motion carries. And the next item D, purchase services agreement with the MRASC. I'd like to request a motion to approve the core services agreement and the following individual service agreements with the Midwest Regional Educational Service Center for the 2021-2022 school year. These are amended contracts. Detention aid at a cost of $19.86 per hour, plus aids at a cost of $17.33 per hour to $18.98 per hour.
Have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Michelle?
If you remember, we went through the process to approve a number of contracts last month or June for aids and so forth. And at the time, we still were having some difficulties with filling vacancies within it. And so we attempted to let that work through itself. We had hoped through July. And what we found is the competition for those positions was very lively in the community and what was available out there. We ultimately did a little bit of a test, if you will. We increased the per hour rate across the salary schedule by $2 an hour. Offered that back to some of those that were interviewed but declined because the rate was too low, and a number of them accepted it. So what we felt is that that was a kind of a barometer of what an acceptable range was for this type of position. And so we moved forward and actually increased all those positions, the ones that we currently employed, and then any new interviews on that new salary schedule. Since the time we had originally passed, if you remember, we did a dollar amount for the full-time positions. Even though they're based on an hourly, we had contracts in place. There were some movements and so forth within those ranks, even after they were hired. We had some people leave and so forth. With the new contracts, for the amended contracts that I received, what we originally approved for our regular everyday full-time aides, we're still covered okay. We have some openings that are still left. I'll at some point come back and approve some additional dollars for once those are filled. But our hourly that we approved at that time for these particular positions was $2 per hour less. So I had to come back and specifically request the new per hour amount on this agenda item. So that's why they just those two and not something for all the aides in general.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, Mike, want to call roll?
Smith,
Yes, but I don't have a little pop-up, I don't think. But it's a yes.
okay, Lot,
Yes.
Meininger,
Yes.
Schaffner.
Yep.
And the motion carries. Item E, and the one everybody loves to do each year, we need to appoint a delegate and an alternate to the 2021 Ohio School Boards Association Annual Business Meeting. So we need to be able to fill in the blanks for me to be able to complete this motion request.
I'll go.
Way to step forward, Jason.
I know everybody likes it. I enjoy it.
So Jason
Right, Bob?
will be the representative.
We'll get it taken care of.
We check in and then we go when we leave, right?
That's right.
In the bar, watch some football or stuff.
We will need an alternate in the event, in the unlikely event that Jason cannot go.
You better have a hotel room like I had last time. Don't take me clear across town.
I'll take care of
Okay, yeah, don't let Mike take care of it.
I'll take care of it.
I'm clear to New Albany or something.
Who was the alternate last year?
Mandy.
Well, hey.
You have to, Mandy, do you object? I didn't hear anything. Yeah, I make a motion to appoint Jason Schaffner as the school board representative and Mandy Croft as the alternate to the 2021 Ohio School Board Association Annual Business Meeting.
Michelle? Any discussion? Mandy?
Do we have a second?
Me.
Michelle? You did, sorry. Missed it.
Just tell Mandy, choo choo, the train's coming through.
It happens when you miss meetings. That's how I became lead president.
That's right.
When I was a high school president.
Ready?
Ready?
All right. Smith,
Yes.
Lot,
Yes.
Meininger,
Yes.
Schaffner.
Yep.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Jason.
Hey, you're welcome.
And lastly is a Power School invoice. Would like to request a motion to approve the Power School invoice for Schoology for FY '22 at a cost of $32,723.10.
Do I have a motion?
I'll move.
Linda, second?
Second.
Michelle?
And actually, this is a housekeeping item. For whatever reason, the purchase order that should have been created when we switched over fiscal years, didn't get created in July. So we received the invoice in the first part of August we received the purchase order or the invoice at the end of July, went to pay it in August. No purchase order was in place. So we can't go back to the previous month and create one for July because we're closed out of it. So anything, as we've talked about before, anything over $10,000 that does not have a purchase order in place requires board approval for us to go ahead and pay it.
And where does the money come for this?
Title II. Federal program.
Are the auditors going to ask you questions on this one?
They won't because it has a board agenda with approval. Otherwise, yes, they would have, and they would not like it.
You have discussion? Mike, you want to call roll?
Meininger,
Yes.
Lot,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Schaffner.
Yep.
Motion carries. That is the last item for me.
Okay, I need a motion to adjourn the executive session for the purpose of discussing the proposed SEA agreement.
So moved.
I'll second.
Linda? Any discussion? How long are we gonna be?
However long, it's up to you.
So we're coming back.
We are
Oh,
coming
yeah,
back.
we haven't done any of Bob's stuff yet.
Because later on, we need to approve that agreement.
Okay.
Yes.
Any discussion? Mike, you want to call roll?
Smith,
Yes.
Meininger,
Yes.
Lot,
Yes.
Schaffner.
Yep.
Motion carries.
And we'll be back.
You have printouts. I only have the PDF.
I need you.
And it's 6:52. I think it's 6:52.
I don't know, I can't tell.
Yeah. Well, you can find a clock in this room. All right. Oh, yeah.
Here's a little one. Thanks for coming. See you visually sometime this week, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm in meetings the next 2 days. And I got an email from Jill, it was right as I was leaving school today, my office, that the Schoology Power Performance Matters integration is there, but I haven't looked at it. And I have to train on it Thursday morning, but I'll spend the next 2 days in meetings, so I'm not sure I'll see it before I have to train on it, which will be
That time of the year.
yeah.
Awesome.
Yep.
See
See
ya.
you guys later. Do you guys have to stay for the rest of the,
It depends. I'll probably give it like 5 or 10, and if they're longer than that, then I will.
or approving the new teacher?
Yeah, it might be a bit of a session. You can go home.
Yeah.
Do we need to?
I'll see you guys later.
Oh, yes, we will need to. Mike might know how to do that. Okay.
Sure.
Calm your baby. It's good because there may be there may be follow-up afterwards.
Okay.
I'll fill you in if there's anything to do.
Okay, sure.
Go for it. All I gotta do is say stop stream, right?
You know as much as I do.
Yeah.
This was literally my nightmare.
this afternoon when Cody was like, "I'm not Tiffany." I was like,
Yep, I hear you.
I don't need text from Joe from Bradford. All right, which way did they go? That way, so we'll go that.
See ya.
See ya.
Wow, it might be a while. I have a lot of salaries to discuss.
Yeah, I know.
Hey, Jamie,
Yes, sir.
do you have anything upstairs that you're gonna need? You're gonna-
No, I think I grabbed everything.
Okay.
So if once I leave, I leave.
Oh, good.
Thanks for that.
Okay, superintendent's report.
Okay. Motion to approve the presented personnel items, printing proper certification and paperwork as presented. Or I said presented twice.
The motion,
Also moved.
Linda, second.
Second,
Michelle, second. Any discussion? Hearing none, Mike, you want to call roll?
Meininger,
Yes.
Lot,
yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Schaffner.
Yep.
Motion carries.
Okay, next is request a motion to approve the new SEA agreement effective August 1st, 21 through July 31st of 2024.
Have a motion?
So, second it.
Michelle, Bob? Any discussion?
Thank you for covering that. So I can better
No,
understand it.
no, that's fine. It's a lot to digest. Okay, next, request a motion. Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you
You
already
actually
voted.
have to vote on it.
I'm sorry, I thought we already did it.
We'll get you home.
Bob got me off track here.
Mike, you want to call roll?
Lot,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Meininger,
Yes.
Schaffner.
Yep.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you to the SCA for working with us on that.
Yep, they did. Great job. Great job. Next, motion to approve the addition of a new position, the Family and Community Coordinator. This position will be paid 100% from the federal program grant funds.
A motion?
Also moved.
Linda, second.
Second,
Michelle, any discussion?
And this is the position we covered earlier.
Correct.
Totally covered by federal grants as in the motion.
Correct.
family liaison.
Liaison with parents.
Mike, you want to call roll?
Meininger,
Yes.
Lot,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Schaffner.
Yep.
Motion carries.
Okay, and last thing is a motion to approve the bus stops for the 21-22 school year for the attached listing.
Have a motion?
So moved.
Bob, second.
I'll second.
Linda, any discussion?
You know, there's just lists of addresses, so I can't make it.
I
Are there
know.
any substantial changes from last year?
No.
Thank you. I'm going to create a database and just import all of our stops and see which ones change. That'd be fun.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, Mike, want to call roll?
Smith,
Yes.
Meininger,
Yes.
Lot,
Yes.
Schaffner.
Yep.
Motion carries.
The legislation report of, was anybody, any reason to go in executive session?
Nope.
Next meeting, can we, before we adjourn here, can we have the latch key here for an update?
Oh, sure.
Appreciate that.
Thank you, Jason.
I remember.
We'll have some solid numbers too.
Okay. Now, see a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Michelle, second.
Second.
Linda, any discussion? Mike, on call roll.
Lot,
Yes.
Meininger,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Schaffner.
Yep.
Motion carries.
So adjourn.
Jamie, really thank you for all you guys are doing.
Absolutely. Thank you for allowing us and inviting us back.
And thank you for taking on that review of software.